Countless ages had come and gone since the Old Ones graced the planet with their divine presence, and in that time, untold numbers of lizardmen had fought and died in the wars against the monsters of the Immaterium. They had sacrificed more than any race should ever have to, and bore those losses as stoically as the unyielding pyramids that formed their great temple cities. 100,000 heroes had come and gone, lost in the madness to consume the planet, their names forgotten as the spawning pools at Itza and Hexadol churned out predators for the meat grinder, a cruel cosmic joke where apex carnivores were no longer the top of the food chain. And yet, once in a dozen generations, a creature would rise from this ancient primordial soup and turn the tides of history. This champion was Gor-Rok, the great white lizard, an enormous albino anvil upon which Itza's enemies would break and break again. He does not know pain, he does not know fear, an immovable killing machine, and one of the finest Saurus specimens in history. He has choked the life from hydras with his bare hands, pummeled wyverns into the ancient causeways of the first city, deflected warp lightning with the shield of eons, and decapitated bloodthirsters with the mace of Ulamak. There is no creature he will not face, no enemy he cannot defeat, and at the head of Itza's fierce warriors, the lizardmen have known victories uncounted. But the mage priests of Itza foreseen the return of the brass beast, scrying visions of a hellish creature on the hunt for vengeance. This will not be the first time the great white lizard has fought this monster. They met on the plains of the dead many years ago, and now he returns to the scene of the crime. Under a scarlet moon was Taurox the Brass Bull born into this world, his rage echoing throughout the great forest, shaking root, stem, and branch. His violence was legendary, even amongst the Minotaur tribes, and it was through the ruined flesh of one of his countless victims that he received an emissary of Khorne. The demon crawled from the void into the material plane with dark red skin, jagged horns, and jet black eyes, but Torox was not interested in what the herald had to say, so he bit off its head and feasted on its flesh. Convulsions immediately overtook him as he screamed and roared to the heavens, his insatiable bloodlust pushed to new heights by the demon's ichor. For a year and a day, he rampaged throughout the lands of men and undead, killing anything that moved. The blood ran in rivers at his feet, and finally, after a nightmare of violence that must have pleased Karnath to his very core, the slaughter horn fell to the ground, exhausted and spent. And he would have died there, but Khorne does not allow his champions to fall so easily. Taurox was sent back to the mortal plane with a body of living metal, a Doombull without equal on this planet. Blessed by the blood god and carving a path of red ruin in his name, he began the slaughter anew. His only weakness, a tiny speck of soft flesh exposed on his throat, punishment for his midnight snack. His shamans speak of the heart of darkness, of a source of great power that can mend his weakness forever. But first, he has unfinished business with an albino who bled his armies dry many years ago in the deserts of the Tomb Kings. Their fates intertwined, their battles legendary. The table has been set. Now let us begin. It's been a long time coming, but finally we have round number 2 for Taurox the Brass Bull and Gor-Rok the Great White Lizard. Last time they fought was April 9th, 2018, using Mixu's Lord mods, and the game's come a long way since that day 3.5 years ago, as has my channel. But still, it is one of my most popular videos, and I think many of us felt it deserved a modern sequel, so that's what we've got planned today. If you have not seen the original, link will be in the pinned comment below, but with the Sons and the Fury and updated rosters, it should be an even better show this time around, and yeah, this battle was crazy. We're sticking around till the end. For starters, we're playing on 40 unit cap with a lot more funds for a bit of extra cinematic flair, and we've got something at least approximating a minibus. 2 Gorgonzola cheeses, 4 minotaurs, a Gorbul, and Torox himself, supported by a Bray Shaman of the Lore of Death. And the minibus will have to do some heavy lifting in this one because there are a decent amount of destructive dinos on the other side of the field. Troglodons in particular are a hard counter if they're allowed time to fire. Now, the first time we played this battle was on Desert's Bounty, so to the Desert's Bounty we shall return, with Gorok leading a massive war host of his own, a lot of Saurus, a lot of Skinks, 2 Troglodons, the Pale Death ROR, and a Skink Oracle, which has shot right to the top of the meta for the children of the Old Ones, a Solar Engine Bastiladon for some long-range killing power, Feral Bastiladon, and on this wing, a super interesting attack flank that could cause a lot of carnage. I have not seen this used much since the patch, but stalking completely invisible cavalry ambushes can be extremely potent because people don't really expect to see 2 or 3 heavy cav just materialize out of thin air supported by infantry. That kind of asymmetrical play can throw a wrench in pretty much anybody's game plan when executed well, and they've got Salamander support, Chameleon support, and Stalker support thrown in for good measure, so when they show their hand, they'll have the tools to delete pretty much any unit in the game. Umbral Tide is also a very good pick here. There's no easy way for the Beastmen to get at them while the Coatl, Cav, and Chameleons are nearby. But of course, if you're starting out with a Beastmen battle and you're on 40 unit cap and you've got the funds to bring one, a Cygor, or just Savage Dominion in general, throwing boulders from downtown, that will get your enemy's ass moving pretty quick. Those boulders will cause a lot of problems for the Lizardmen on the way in, not just for the Skink cohort, not just for the Saurus, but even occasionally for single entities. It's not an inaccurate artillery piece, and I have seen it deal quite a bit of damage to single entities if they're not dodging, dipping, diving, and ducking their way on the approach. Right now, though, it's just the run-of-the-mill meat shields getting the short end of the stick. Hola, Skink indeed. Hello there. A Brass Bull about to vent some rage in amongst their ranks, which is the Warhammer equivalent of the Rick and Morty meme. Skink crawls out of the spawning pool, looks at the Mage Priest and says, "What is my purpose?" "You block bullets for the Saurus and have to fight Taurox the Brass Bull." Oh my god. I wonder what are they supposed to do? I mean, the Saurus aren't even going to have a fun time here either. The Minotaurs are into their flank, and the initial stages of this battle will revolve around that minibus, creating quite a bit of carnage in and amongst the Children of the Old One's ranks. Gorok is into melee with the Ungor herd, but the Troglodons are spitting tons of poison out on the flank, and the Vanguard wing for the Beastmen. All those stalking units, well, they've been seen, and when they're seen by Troglodons, they will not last for very long. It's kind of obscene how much damage Troglodons do to both infantry and large single entities with those spitting attacks. The Skink Oracle has 51 kills after 3 ranged salvos. That's pretty crazy. That's not really even its designed role, and immediately Ungor herd are just evaporated from the map. I mean, they disintegrated under those volleys. Crazy stuff right there for sure. Gor-Rok the Great White Lizard is going to be dealing with the Ungor herd for a while, but that is leaving a lot of opportunity for Itza to spring their ambush over on the other side of the battlefield. For now, the Gorbull and Taurox the Brass Bull are solo, and in amongst the Skink cohort and some Saurus. Solar Engine Bastillodon getting some good shots in on the Bray Shaman and on the Minibus, but here it comes. Coatl just unveiled its nasty little surprise and slithering down into melee alongside a bunch of Cold One Spear Riders and the Chameleon Volleys, which will not poison their own ranks, which is a huge deal. It's why people used to not want to run the poison Bretonnian Archers. It's why people were kind of hesitant to run Chameleon Skinks alongside their cavalry. One single shot would poison your entire formation and debuff your troops as well, which made it kind of pointless. Now it's not like that. Now friendly fire does not poison your own stuff, and Gor-Rok and the Shield of Eons, the Mesa Ulamak flashing in the midday sun. Even now, he could cut through 500 Ungors like carving a cake. They'll do what they can to stop him, but expect to see that kill count rise quickly for the Great White Lizard as more and more fodder is tossed his way. Troglodon's getting hyper-aggressive, moving into the middle of the Bray herd, attempting to zone out the Cygor and keep him moving, prevent him from throwing those boulders, but they'll be forced to retreat from some infantry, and Coatl in the center of this stock ambush, Umbral Tide firing in. Look at those Minotaurs melt away. Perfect engagement from the Children of Itza and the First City. Taurox and the Gorbull into the Chameleons and pancaking a whole section of their battle line. But if we're talking trades here, this is certainly one that will go the way of the Lizardmen. They've got some great shots into the Minotaurs, killed off an entire unit, and the Coatl is exactly what they need. Just kind of move into the middle of everything, take some damage, and allow the Chameleons, the Stalkers, and the Salamander Hunting Pack to blow stuff up. Gorgon on the other side, though, will be a huge threat. If they get on top of the Troglodons, as good as their stats are, the Pale Death will not be able to take on a 4-armed, ox-headed monstrosity like that Gorgon in a 1v1 duel. So they've got to be careful. If they're able to keep their distance and shoot in, the Gorgons won't be around for very long. The DPS of Troglodons is crazy. We just saw a Chain Lightning in the background around that Coatl. They're doing a fantastic job with their ambush over on that side. In the center, things are a bit more even. Ungor herd, Gor herd, trading with Saurus. We'll see how that develops as things move later into the battle. The Lizardmen have certainly paid for the advantages they've gained in these early stages. Chameleon Wing, under the cloaking shadow of the Coatl, killed off almost 2 full Minotaur units and forced Torox to shift all the way over and abandon his dino pursuit for the moment, but the Coatl took a bit of a beating from the Gorgon in that fight, and the Cold Ones are down past half HP as well. Centaur is looking to back up the remnants of Minotaurs, while Doom and Darkness from the Bray Shaman lowers their leadership by 16. I think that the Beastmen should be able to clear up the rest of that cav. Coatl probably will not get over there in time. Meanwhile, Gorgon is feasting and gaining that strength from flesh, that regeneration, while he beats up on a bunch of chameleon stalkers. Solar Engine continuing to share its rays of sunshine with the world, taking out some Centaur and Minotaur, and a huge attack coming on the Lizardmen left flank while Gorok continues to beat up on meat shields. Gorgon leading the charge alongside the Minibus into the Skink cohort and Saurus that are backing them up, and they're going to attempt to break through here and get into the heart of this Children of the Old Ones army. With the Gorgon, they might be able to do so, but there is one secret weapon Lizardmen have to prevent this, and of course it's the double Troglodon play. Now watch the deletion of this Gorgon. Look at the damage that is going its way. Fireball, just constant corrosive acid being spit his way. It has been 8 seconds. He's down to half HP, and it's gonna get even worse for him. His HP bar has disappeared almost instantaneously, and that is the power of the double Troglodon. And they're not even just killing the Gorgon, they're killing off Minotaurs too. They just killed off 2 models there with another poison shot. So you've got to be so careful when those Troglodons are on the loose, and there's a reason they pretty much replaced Carnosaurs in the Lizardman meta. They do all the things that Carnosaurs can do from the safety of range, and frankly they do that job a lot quicker. And then when they're out of ammo, they can still run into melee and pretty much do the job of a Carnosaur anyway. They still have good melee stats, they still cause terror, you can still use that primeval roar to get the plus 24 melee attack in an AoE. So definitely a problem for the Beastmen right now, probably the biggest threat on the field to the Bray herds of Taurox the Brass Bull. Other Gorgon is down to half HP as well. The Umbral Tide looks like it's in a bad spot at this point. The Chameleon Wing, the Coatl Wing has mostly been dealt with, but still causing a little bit of havoc in the back lines. And at the moment, I would say Lizardmen have a distinct advantage. But some of the routing Beastmen units and one of those Centaur units did route off into the back line of the Lizardmen, which could open some interesting possibilities for a flanking attack if the Bray herd is able to push through in the center and attack from all sides simultaneously. Huge charge coming from that Bray Shaman of the Lore of Death on his Razorgore Chariot, carving his way through an entire unit of Skink cohort. Lightning being shot from the Coatl into the Cygor, and looks like it might be just about enough to finish it off, at least routing down to 500 health. Ungor archers firing in, Gorgon on the hunt, but really doing whatever it can in its last moments of existence. Will not be long for this world, and there it falls. That's one Gorgon down. The other Gorgon is still alive, but routed towards the edges of the map, and actually might be off the map. We'll look for it in a second here. But Korok's Manrippers rallying to their Doombull Lord. Salamanders diving into melee because they're pretty much out of ammo and out of life at this point. They're just sacrificing themselves to maybe prevent the death of their Solar Engine Bastillodon, which at this point I'd say is a more important unit to keep online for the terror in the late game. The Gorgon is still at the edge of the map. He has not routed off yet. And the Gore Herd and Saurus beating down upon each other while Gor-Rok, the Great White Lizard, well, he shoots up over 100 kills right about now. Been brutal so far. We're 8 minutes in, and this battle shows no signs of slowing down or stopping. That is one nice thing about the 40 unit cap battles and the higher funds. You get to bring more cool units, and the battles are obviously going to last longer. Troglodons can't be stopped right now, man. The Pale Death and the Skink Oracle fighting back to back, and the Spinosaurs are getting spooky. Cygor returned to the fold though, Boulder Throw into the flank of the Trog. He's near the edge of the map, but he shall return. Primeval Fury pop for that plus 24 melee attack. And here comes the Minibus charging in on the Skink cohort on this side. Keeping those Minotaurs alive for the late game. Extremely important for Taurox the Brass Bull, the Slaughterhorn, and the Beastmen Bray Herd. If they aren't able to keep enough bonus versus large on the field, Taurox will have an exceedingly difficult time dealing with all those dinos as we move into the later stages. The Coatl doesn't have a lot of health left. Taurox could deal with that. he could maybe deal with one more Troglodon and a Bastiladon on top of that, but there's no way he deals with Gor-Rok and 2 Troglodons and a Bastiladon and a Quaddle all by himself, and he's lost both his Gorgons pretty much. I mean, there is one Gorgon remaining. You can see it returning in the background there, but it's literally one hit from death. So, yeah, they're quickly running out of options for dealing with those Spinosaurs, and even still more fireballs being spewed their general direction. Centaurs dropping to the magic missile, and here comes the Pale Death into the flank. That'll probably be a terror route for everything over there. Quaddle, well, it can't offer a whole lot more of this battle. I believe it's used all of its bound spells. It did its job. It got the Cold Ones into melee unscathed and helped break open the flank on that side. At this point, might be able to get a few rear charges in, maybe cause some terror, but no healing means that getting it back into battle shape will be impossible. And one attack from the Gorgon would probably make it round off. So both sides are in tatters, but I'd argue there are more high-value units left on the Lizardmen side. With that said, screw everything else. This is what we are here for. The duel between Taurox the Brass Bull and Gor-Rok the Great White Lizard. Clear a path, get everyone around in a circle, and watch the show unfold. Both these legendary lords have some unfinished business. A rivalry 3 years in the making. As Ken Watanabe would say, let them fight. Let the kaiju brawl. Let the boa watch. And this should be an interesting duel. Torox has the benefit of a significantly larger HP pool, and obviously he hits like a damn Mack truck. But Gor-Rok has way more dueling buffs from Rock of Itza, from the Mace of Ulamak, from Shield of Eons. Not to mention all those abilities are shorter cooldown. So we'll check back in on that in a second. Over here, the Dino Blob has begun forming, and I think that's just going to straight up go the Lizardmen's way. I don't see how what's in there could possibly win for the Beastmen. They do have a few Ungor archers that are moving into range right now. Those shots, those volleys could do some damage against the single entities as the Quaddle uses its last Uranus Thunderbolt. But yeah, as expected, everything, including Korok's Min Rippers, are routing, and the Gorgon shattered. He's dead too. There's nowhere for him to go. He will fall. I've actually not seen that death animation before. That's the first time I've seen that, and he smushed a few Saurus on the way down too. Back here, it's close. Gorok is not dropping quick, but I think he's getting a little bit unlucky on his attack rolls. He has not hit Torox as much as one would expect, given the somewhat middling to lowish melee defense that Taurox the Brass Bull possesses. So far, Torox's HP pool has been the major difference, but this duel is not over. It is definitely shifting his way though, and Gorok might be in trouble, and we could be seeing echoes, reverberations from ages long past when the Great White Lizard was defeated by Torox in a duel back then. And yes, indeed, he has fallen. The Champion of Itza loses his second duel to Torox. Both were close. The first one was closer than this one, but yeah, he just couldn't deal with that much HP, and he got kind of unlucky on the attack rolls while his buffs were active. That's unfortunate. So Gorok is gone, but there's a lot more that the Brass Bull has to deal with before this game is over, and frankly, I'm not entirely convinced he's going to be able to do it. Ankylosaurus leading the charge, terror-routing off both Centaurs and shattering both. That's a big loss. Ooh, yikes. Gorbull also routing. Quaddle might be able to chase that to the edge of the map. Taurox the Brass Bull will have to do some heavy lifting here. A huge charge coming in. More routing amongst the Bray herds, and the Lizardmen are surging forward behind the Pale Death Troglodon, who is out of ammo. Cygor firing in from the edges of the map. Quaddle may decide to go after that if he feels it necessary at the moment. Dealing with the archers is not a bad idea. They're actually the biggest threat besides Torox himself to the single entities, and all the Children of the Older Ones have left are single entities at this point. Those boulders are getting perilously close to Quaddle. Nice shots coming in from the Ungor Raiders. Torox dropping its brass body, venting some steam, messing up that solar engine Bastiladon, and one attack should be able to do it. You can tell the Quaddle is very hesitant to go down into melee. It can have some difficulty pulling out of engagements as the solar engine falls, and being that close to Taurox the Brass Bull, it would only require one more hit before it dies. So it realizes it needs to go down into melee. Big rear charge, big attack into Torox's flank, winding up to spew some lightning his general direction. Primeval Roar might get popped from the Pale Death soon. It's going after the Doombull, and Torox needs help. Not sure how much the hero can do for him. Knocked over immediately, but the Quaddle falls. That's a big loss for the children of the old ones. Torox and the Doombull fighting back to back right now. Doom and Darkness popped on the Pale Death, minus 16 leadership in an AoE now. That was overcast, and that might rout the Chameleon Skinks. It did, it shattered them. Primeval Roar popped. Troglodon coming back in. He'll be up over 60 melee attack with that active 73 poison attacks too. They might be able to win this duel. Gorbull's about to rout. Oh, it's getting so dangerous for both sides now. Gorbull died, and it might have been from a friendly fire volley from the Ungor Raiders that finished him off for good. Feral Bastiladon routing. Torox is wavering. He might break, and that will leave just Ungor Raiders and a severely beaten Bray Shaman with the Cygor at like 1 HP on the edge of the map. Pale Death might be able to carry this one, but it's rampaging, and it has lost all of its support now. It has so much HP. I think in an actual duel with everything, it would be able to win. It's just a question of whether leadership can hold for it. Torox's leadership just rallied to 0. That means it'll go into the positive in a second here, and he should return. But he has 532 health left, so basically one hit from the Pale Death is all that will be required to kill him for good, or at least shatter him completely. Bray Shaman and the Bastiladon dueling in the background, a chariot going up against a massive armored ankylosaur, and the Bray Shaman's gonna win. What in the world, dude? Oh my god, he's chasing the Bastiladon off now. Is that another Doom and Darkness? It is indeed. On the Pale Death, Torox is on the verge of routing here, going in against one of the scariest Lizardmen monsters, but it has no leadership anchor, and it's dropping super fast. Doom and Darkness is lowering his leadership still. Primal Roar might not be enough, and he's gonna rout, and there's nothing left on the map. The Beastmen are going to win with a sliver of HP left. That was absolutely bananas insane. Holy crap. Taurox the Brass Bull wins a rivalry that has been in the making for 3.5 years. Won the duel, won the battle, and at this point I think it's safe to say won the war. Now he's DLC and Gorok's free LC, so power creep. But no, they just have different roles and different price points, which are obviously a big factor. In a straight fight from full HP, Taurox will beat Gor-Rok, but he also costs a lot more, significantly more. He's like 2,400. Gorok is quite a bit cheaper. So they both did well that game. I think Gorok held up pretty well in that duel, dealt a lot of damage to Taurox, but Taurox was a freaking monster. This entire battle, over 4,000 damage value on the Lizardman side. It was the Quaddle breaking open a lot of stuff on that flank with the Vanguard Wing, with the Cold One Riders. More importantly, the Troglodons, both over 3,000 damage value, just melting Gorgons, melting Minotaurs. If they had a little bit more ammo in the late stages to shoot Torox, if they even got 1 or 2 volleys into Torox that entire game, it goes the way of the Lizardmen. Super fun battle, very cinematic stuff. Got the duel in we've all been looking for, and Vengeance didn't quite go the way for Lizardmen today. Taurox the Brass Bull and the Beastmen are champions.